Hi everyone. Been running a little while this morning, so just taking a little detour before I get working this morning. Amazing how big these fields are. I'll talk to you in a little bit. Alright, so I finally made it. So you can see we've got 2 needle and stitch and 3 Briar Rose spinneries and a sheep barn and a hayloft, and I'm thinking this is some sort of pallet storage. That's what's happening up here at the north end of the map. And down here at the south end of the map, nothing too exciting. Kind of understand what's happening. So we've got a farmer, Donald, over there, who again wanted those tiny little fields. So there he pulls away, but obviously doing some grass work just to keep things going. But I think they're doing crops up north, so I think they're just kind of trying to keep things afloat or give themselves enough working capital coming in with the grass that they can do what they want over in cropland. But down here at the south, you know the drill if you've been following generational farming with me at all here. It's grass work time. So it's not going to take much before we get to the next big milestone, but I want to start mowing. Oh, I want to start mowing. Why don't I do that first? Goodness gracious. I'm like so excited and so far ahead of myself. So yeah, it's going to be a little while till the next milestone because we're not ready yet. We need to mow. I'm like ready to pick up my grass. That would be hard to do if it's not cut yet. It's early. It's not that early, but it's early enough. So let me head up to the store and get myself some mowers, and we will then come back here. And we got rain, but again, we don't care because we got grass. So that will all work out well, but we are ready to go. So let me go get the mowers. Let me get down here and get going, and I'll connect back up with you and show you what's what. So I'll see you in a bit. So here we are at the farm and beginning the work. Now, I'm still questioning to some degree if I'm gonna do the whole field, because I honestly think that's just gonna be too much if I do that. Right, this should be good now to get myself a GPS line. So I should be set for when I'm ready to do that. So what I'm gonna do most likely, because at this point the benefit I have is I'm not at the point where I have to lease any equipment right now to do what I'm doing. So what that means is I can switch back and forth to my heart's content. I don't have to sit there and worry that the clock is ticking on something while I'm trying something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mow a bit. And you know, a bit's going to be a good amount. I mean, again, I want at least 20 acres. But on this long end of the field, you know, let's be real, 20 acres is not going to be that much as far as that many passes. Alright, so this will get me going straight up and down, which is obviously what I want to start doing right away. I'm going to figure out what I do on the ends as I go along. I'm not really sure You know, typically I would, obviously at the field in France, I was running around in circles around the big field first. But the good news is there aren't really that many obstructions here, and so kind of as long as I'm able to mow, I'm on my property, because otherwise it won't let me mow. And then that will give me the benefit of being able to kind of pick up as much as I possibly can on the grass front. Alright, so before I get much further, I've been meaning to do this for a little bit. I've been kind of wanting to look at what the situation is and how much it's taken to get this field going. So, because this is the first harvest, and then we're, you know, not worried about it. So here we can see, you know, we've gotten full lime. Oh, what I need to do, I need to get the weed piece, so I do have to do that. So I may divert and get that done because I'm not getting credit there. I have finally taken care of the weeds. It was a little bit of a process, but gotten that taken care of so that Precision Farming recognizes it. So let me reconnect to my mowers, and then we'll resume where we were, but a moment in the episode ago, but probably half an hour in time ago. So if I look at my economic analysis here, we have got 73 soil samples. We put on quite a bit of lime, 68,000 liters, almost 66,000 liters of lime, but luckily, again, lime's not insanely expensive, but that was, right now, the most we've spent on everything on our field. Amazingly, 2,936 liters of fertilizer, so that number that I was shown seems somewhat accurate. And then 4,500 liters of seed to plant the field. So that's what we've done so far. And obviously, you know, there's fuel usage, there's other things. And then right now we're running at a 93%, I think. So I just want to get moving on the next row. But what will happen, if you recall, is this herbicide number is going to increase. Or not herbicide, the nitrogen number is going to increase as I harvest more of the field. Kind of gives you a big credit to begin with, but this is where I'm going to have to take a look. It's actually falling right now, which is interesting. But I think what I'm going to do is maybe get, say, yay far, so like halfway to the number, let's say. So that's probably not much further than probably this far on the other side of the drain. So maybe it's like where the yard begins. Let's take a look. So where the yard begins, yeah, that might not be a bad cutoff point. So I'm going to mow that, and that'll be my starting point before I start collecting, because that's going to start to show me what I've got going on with regards to a lot of things. Time, volume, and so forth. Whoa. Alright, lovely lag, lovely lag. We all love lag. Alright, so given that this row of trees is right there, I am going to go ahead and kind of give myself some room to maneuver here, because otherwise I'm just going to be playing with things for a while. Again, this is about where I'm going to go before I stop, so I'm not going to go any further than that as far as cutting the grass right now. Once again, what I may start to see is I may have a low nitrogen score, because if I don't do the whole field, it may only give me X amount of credit. So that's kind of what I need to look at, and I'm going to have to weigh that with... I really don't have the desire or the time. I mean, knowing what I've got to get done here and what it took on the old field. You know, if I do 40 acres or, you know, whatever it is of grass, that is going to be, you know, we're probably going to be back up there at 6 hours again, like what I was doing the first time before I expanded the mowers and got the rake and was doing what I was doing. And that just really wasn't desirable, so my intent was to always do a smaller amount here, and I think that will be more than enough to kind of stay competitive. Now the challenge is honestly going to be, as we talk about things now, because once again, at the end of the day, yes, this is Farming Simulator, but this series in particular, like it or not, this series is focused on money and money alone. There's very little that matters in generational farming other than cash. So, I know others may be approaching it differently or whatever, but let's get real. My Hobo's Hollow farm is my joy of farming. This is strictly a business. This is a play to dominate the world and generate cash. Otherwise, I'd just quit generational farming and just work on Hobo's Hollow, because otherwise it's just 2 farms, which is kind of pointless on the same type of system. So now that I've got that out of my system, and we're just all on the same page with bluntness and clarity, you know, you want to call it ruthless capitalism, whatever the heck you want to call it, you know, that's my focus, is just getting this done and staying enough ahead. We did get the leaderboard coming out. I'm in 2nd place. You know, it's good enough for me. Again, I was expecting that. So just knowing, you know, what I had seen, the person that's in 1st place, they're doing what I said is how I would be beat. They're just outworking me. They had so much land. They had so much going on, that I knew and expected that I was going to be slaughtered by where they were at. And if someone has that much time to put into it and that's what they want to do, more power to them. But I am not going to make my life 12 hours a day of Farming Simulator. And maybe they've got a way that they're not doing that, you know, but you know, they may be using the AI helpers to do it all, and so they just leave their computer running and just let the AI helper do the work. And at some level, I mean, you're going to make a profit with the AI helper. You're going to make less than you would if you did the work yourself. But if your goal is, I'm just going to basically every moment of the day, I'm going to have my machines moving 24 hours a day, I'm not competing with that. I'm not interested in doing that because I'm doing other things with my PC. I can't leave it running Farming Simulator all the time and not pay attention to it. And maybe they're actually doing all the work and they just have all that time. But at the end of the day, like, you can get mowers that are, you know, a few meters wider than this. I suppose if you get the big equipment, the big mowers, maybe those are wider, faster, whatever. You know, they swath at the same time. Maybe it lets you run the land faster, but that's, again, the point is they're just simply working more land, and if they do that, they're gonna beat me. But beyond that, like, I'm comfortable enough now that we've gone through 8 years. Like, kind of everything I expected is playing out exactly as I thought, so it's just validating my data and validating the math that, you know, folks that were on grass switched to crops. You know, they fell at a certain point to a level kind of commensurate with what I was expecting. So, you know, just a year or two out of grass, you know, can have hundreds of thousands of dollars in a shift there. Now, with that said, I will say there are things I don't have data on. You know, I talked about crops. Obviously, we started this episode with the tour of the operation up north. So basically what they've got to dole it down from what the billboards on the buildings were, they've got 3 spinnery productions, which basically will take wool from the sheep and convert it to fabric. And then the needle and knit, or whatever the heck they were called, those are tailor shops. And so they've got 2 of those. And I'm sure the decision of 3 and 2 was simply, that's, you know, they did the math and understood 3 spinneries will supply enough fabric to keep 2 tailors running. You know, or some such combination. Again, if I was doing it, that's what I would do, because otherwise you're overbuying and so forth. So I'm gonna assume that that is what they did to determine how they're sizing the operation. Now, I've done sheep enough to know that wool is insanely slow in production. I know someone started with sheep on our server here, and after, I think, a year, gave up because they realized how low it was. If you scale up the operation, however, and you have enough sheep, perhaps there's a tipping point somewhere where you start to be competitive with grass. That's the data I don't have. You know, the data I do have is, what are those items worth? So we're at the time of year right now where we're kind of maxed out on the output of those type of productions. So clothes are going to generate over $10,000 per 1,000 liters, and fabric is slightly under 4,000. So certainly taking the fabric, converting it to clothes makes sense, but all of that comes back down to what's your actual throughput, what's possible. That's the stuff I haven't modeled and I don't have the data on. And, you know, so again, there may be something there. That may be a winning strategy, perhaps. And so I'll certainly keep an eye out on what the cash situation looks like, and, you know, make decisions accordingly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run down here, and I'm going to run the closest line that I have. And again, I'm going to be a little generous, so I'm going to go here. So this is my border. Like, this is how far I'm going before I'm going to start collecting. Wow. Oh, that's right. There's a bump there. So I'm going to have some grass that I can't do. As heavy as that is, it almost seems like there may have been a building on the map here that got eliminated to get this map going for us, but I don't know that we had a modified map, so that's where I'm a little confused, honestly. Alright, so at this point, my nitrogen, just over this little bit, has crept up enough that I've gone from 92 on my environmental score to 95. But that has changed nothing, those 3 percentage points. My environmental bonus score is exactly the same. So, you know, we're kind of at that point where we were before, where there's going to be a tipping point where it's just not worth putting in 5 extra hours every time I mow grass to gain 1% of environmental score. You know, in the end, I mean, yes, it adds up, but if I've already got 13%, getting to 14 may not matter. And realistically, I probably will end up at 14. But getting to 15, which is what you need for the max, I think I need to get to 97 or 98 for that to happen. That may just not be worth it. Alright, so this won't take me terribly long, as you can see, but I'm not sure that this quite gets me to 20 acres. I'm thinking this is more than 10, but it may just be more than 10, so I'm thinking I'm still going to need to go across. My challenge, however, is like going to the halfway mark, which is kind of where these numbers are normally placed, because this is larger. Like, obviously, the area, and again, I don't have grass here. So, you know, my area here would just be like that. It would clearly be more than half of the field. at that point. So somewhere between where I'm at now and the midpoint is kind of where I would want to be. The thing is, like, if I'm really at about the middle, what I can also then figure out is to kind of get closer to the silos, because once again, I have the silos over there. Right now I'm honestly mowing and making it take as long as I possibly could by selecting this part of the field to work with versus having started over there. But, you know, kind of once I know where it is, if I'm really at about the halfway point, what I can then do is just mow the other piece, you know, and once I kind of set my line, I'll know, hey, this is where it is, this is where I end. And the benefit I have here on this field is, once again, I get a throttle or a capacity flux that I have available to me, because there's nothing that has shown me that the math on crops, now again, because like I said, the productions may blow this out of the water. I've not seen anybody in any farming simulator videos or anything, however, say productions really skew things that much, or at all, honestly. So, you know, there's a potential blind spot there, because, you know, obviously per 1,000 liters of silage I'm getting, you know, whatever it is, $170 to $200 versus 10,000 for 1,000 liters of clothing that Locht will be getting with his operation up there. So it's just, you know, it's just straight math at that point. That means we've got a 500 to 1 ratio of what's going on. So I, in essence, need 500 times more liters than he's getting to keep up. But if I remember correctly, I think it took me well over a year to get 20,000 liters of wool out of the large sheep barn once it was running. So that would mean I need 1,000,000 liters of silage, which is in essence about what I was getting. I was getting between 800,000 and 900,000 liters. Now, yes, that was with the full 27. So there's a possibility that with what's going on there, probably a pretty good possibility as I talk through this now, because in essence I'm mulling the data with what I know. That may work, but what I need to take a look at is, I think sheep are somewhat easy to feed. I think they can be fed with grass or something, some conglomeration like that. I don't remember that I had to take crops over there, so I may be able to supplement that and in essence build a similar operation if I want to go ahead and do that as well. So I still feel I'm in a good spot to counter any strategy I start seeing that might be improving the situation a little bit. You know, and at the end of the day, I mean, that's kind of the process, because there's no winning in generational farming without ending up with the most cash. You know, and the winning, for those who may not have started at the beginning here, basically it's the top 3. So it's kind of like any other normal competition. Top 3 get medals, the rest get a pat on the back and thanks for trying, but you just weren't good enough. You know, and at the end of the day, what we're getting for the top 3 is, you know, kind of, it looks like some FSN swag. So it's not like we're competing for $1 million here or something. So it does come down to some degree, you know, how much do you want to press yourself and push for a coffee mug, I suppose. So we'll see. But, you know, clearly it's obvious that some people are going full speed ahead, And some may be trying and not succeeding, and frankly, there's probably a much larger group that is just doing it for fun and something different. You know, you get to move maps every probably 3 or 4 months at most, because once again, if we're running, the longest we'll ever be in a map is 10 years. So at 12 days, you're at 120 days. So basically, that's 4 months. So, 3 times a year, you're going to get to move, you're going to get to start over, you're going to get to kind of figure it out. That may be enough for a lot of people. And certainly, it's interesting for me. Like, I never played Oberon for the length of time that we played it here, so I definitely got to know things there that I didn't in the little bit of single player I did on it. I've never been on this map until now. So for me, again, this is a whole new thing. Westby would have been the same thing, so I was looking forward to something like that. So that's certainly a draw for me as well, but I'm also a competitive individual, so it's like if I'm in a competition, I'm going to compete. But I also understand the other things that I do that will make me happy, and again, busting my hump to win, which is just kind of, at the end of the day, I mean, it's bragging rights per se within this little community. Hey, I won generational farming, and that, and $5 will get you a coffee at Starbucks. So, and I hate coffee, so it doesn't really matter one way or the other. Well, you know what? I can't do that. I may just push these. I need to pick up the grass, so leaving it here, I really should have driven over to the grass field. I mean, in essence, that's what I'm going to do. If it starts flipping around, I may take the time to connect up, but I think I can kind of do this enough that I can get the mowers over here and it'll all be good, and I'll kind of go over, because once I snap the lines, it may go into the grass on the when I'm here at the edge. So this one might be a little trickier to shove along, but we'll see. So a little bit of fun for all here as I manhandle or tractor handle my equipment to do what I need to do. Oh yeah, this is great. Probably won't be able to connect to it later. I don't know. We'll figure it out. So my guess is, if I bang on it from the other side, it'll just fall over. I guess I can do that so that it's somewhat prepared to go when I'm ready. But my thought is, there you go. So now it'll flip over and everything's good now, other than I might have to drive around it because I have it too close to the edge, but we're going to leave it there. Wasted enough time. It probably would have been, frankly, faster to connect to it and drag it over to the grass. I don't know. Although that was pretty efficient, other than I had to do it 2 times. So now let's do what I started the episode with after our little tour of the Northlands. And now we actually have something to do with this equipment. And then the statement I made is, our next step here will come up shortly. And those that are astute enough will know what that next step is, but to add some suspense, because, what's a good YouTube series without suspense? I won't explain what it is until we do it in probably less than 5 minutes, so you won't have to wait long. Alright. So, our familiar setup. I guess the one thing I haven't explicitly said, if it's not obvious to folks, everything we are going to own, we own as far as equipment now. Unless I change the strategy or something. Like if I suddenly start, oh yeah, I'm going to I'm going to start up a sheep operation to keep up with the sheep people and still keep doing tons of grass too on the side. Because I think that's still going to... still think that's going to work pretty well, but I don't know. Let's see. That gets that down. That gets that down. Now we'll do this, and then basically we'll run over here. Well, that didn't work, because obviously I forgot to turn this on. We'll collect the rest later. I don't really need to go back, because I'm going to have to run around here anyway. So, I was like, why am I getting a windrow out the back? That is not supposed to be happening. And that would be because it's not supposed to be happening, and I'm goofy. Alright, so I should be able to get everything. I imagine I'll be able to get everything. Alright, well, I didn't. So it might be a little too close to the edge, but this will work. This is kind of how we play it. So now let me do this. And again, as you can see, it's a bit wider. Not much, however. And so now we'll get going here. And that will work pretty well. And I doubt we're going to get anywhere near the north end of the field before we have a full wagon. You know, so the choice really becomes, as we continue to talk about the only thing that there is to talk about in generational farming, how do you dominate this thing? Alright, let's see, because we're kind of leaving it, and I think it's because, in essence, now I'm off. But if I go over here, I'll be able to properly pick it up. So again, we'll touch things up, kind of learning the dynamics and the trigger points of my property. So kind of once I got over, it was, well, you know, you're not on your land anymore, you're on the road, you're trying to collect stuff off the road, and then it wasn't even collecting the stuff that was nearby. But, you know, it's a lot easier than dancing around trees and all of that, which is another reason why this may still be faster even though it's further away, because in the end I'm going to be driving 32 miles an hour or something like that. I mean, I don't know that I'll get up to full speed when I'm loaded, but okay, why? I don't understand. Why did it... What the heck just happened? I did not hit any keys. Why did it, like, do that? It turned... It, like, turned the forage wagon off. My hand isn't even near the keyboard. Alright, hold on. B, V, V, B. Okay. Alright, I don't understand, so hold on. B? Why is it turning off? Is it suddenly going to telling me that I have a... Yeah, it's literally flipping itself off. Alright, I don't know what's happening, but this is good enough to start here, I guess. Like, I honestly have no idea why it's doing that. So, we need to put this somewhere. So, the suspense is now over. I need to give myself somewhere to put it. And I know I'm going to be generating enough grass. I'm going to at least have enough of an operation that I'm going to need 2 silos. So I'm going to do that. I have been mulling over in my head the possibility of going to 3. So we may do that. But we're going to place 2. So I'm going to get kind of to the edge of the field because I want to stay clear of things. I'll just stop here. That's good enough. And we're going over here. to this. And this is what we are doing. So, what I think I'm going to do, and what I was talking about, is I'm going to line up, in essence, because I should be okay. You know what? I'm going to, just to make sure I'm okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start from this side. Because, yes, that should... Problem is, like, it appears okay. I just think we're a little bit further than the trigger, and it's probably not worth the headache. So let me do this. This has got to be good enough. I mean, I've got enough from the left side there. So we're gonna place this one here. All right, more than enough space. And then we're gonna do the same thing here. So I'm kind of eyeballing where my pads are. And we're gonna place this there. And there we go. Alright. But what that will let me do is then I can just, you know, keep circling around when I'm taking stuff to go sell it. It's just gonna be super easy to do. I'm really surprised that there's that much elevation anywhere around here. Like, it looks like there's a little bit of a hill, but I mean, it'll work. So, let me get this going. Come in. We're gonna activate these. Obviously, the one's not gonna be doing anything because materials are missing. So it'll go red, but we won't have materials missing in a bit unless suddenly somehow, I don't know, my equipment broke. I don't understand what was happening with the pickup and whatever. So yeah, I don't have any weird things happening at my edge of my property, so I'm pretty sure that placement is good. So I'm going to go with that, and we'll now try to go pick all this up. I just don't know if there's something like at that point on the property that is weird. Like, it's just weird. I don't know what to say other than I have no clue why it did what it did when I got up there, but we're going to try this again. So I think what I'll do is I'll swing around and I will pick up. Of course, now I've just created more cleanup work for myself, but whatever. I was going to just run a path up at this point so that I can actually collect some grass and whatever. So this should work. And that way, as I head up, you know, I'll collect stuff before I get to the point where the thing acted goofy. Although I have to step out here and collect the edges there where it started to not work, so we're not going that far up anyway before we do this. So I'll be cleaning it up for a little bit, but at this point, yes, I'm going to go ahead. Kind of stay over here, which will grab some from the inside as well. Then we'll swing back into the line, do our thing, and then we'll figure out what the heck is happening up where it did what it did, and we'll see what happens. So I just don't know. I mean, because even if you go off your property, I've never seen Farming Simulator shut off the equipment and say, nope, you're off your land. You know, I mean, it doesn't do that. It just tells you you're not on your land, and it ceases to actually function, and it leaves stuff on the ground. But so the only thing, I don't know, it doesn't make any sense, because there's nothing that logically makes sense as to what happened here and why it did it. So, I mean, because it's a windrower, I don't have to go all the way over. Like, I assume this will pick it up, but I want to get those, so... Oh, I didn't quite get the one. I don't know why. Maybe it's just far enough over. So I'm kind of watching my little icon up in the top left now, because if you saw what was happening, it was just bouncing up. And it's like, does this map have some sort of a max limit on silage that I can only pick up 30,000 in this equipment? I mean, again, it's something to know. Now I've got wonderful lag again, my favorite friend. So if it does, we're going to probably hit it before we get to the end of the field here again. Yeah, it did turn it off. Like, I was able on Oberon to fill it. I did not realize that this worked per map. But that's the only thing I can explain. It's going to be obvious when I do the other side, and when I dump silage out to go sell, if it won't fill either. You know what? I'm an idiot. I think I might know what's going on. No, I don't have. Okay, so no. I'm like, do I have the fill limiter on? But I don't. So, you know, it's not letting me reset. Okay, so it's not that. So for a while I was like, I'm a fool. But no, it's not that either. But the confusing part is usually what I've seen is when it does it, you get a little max lock that appears that tells you you can't go any higher. And we're not getting that. So it's just strange. But yeah, I guess there is like a little bit of a slope. Well, there's a big slope there. I'm glad somehow it didn't get over there. But that's near the road, so that doesn't matter. And so basically, if I place another, it'll be back, obviously, and in line with those. But I was trying to kind of stay at the angle that the field is, so that if I do need to line some up, that'll work. So once again, I had stated this kind of, I think, in the first episode of this generation, as I was explaining this. The reason I do what I do is I get higher capacity and higher throughput for the same cost that I would for a large silo at a slightly higher production cost. So that is worth it to go ahead and kind of reap the benefits that we have going on. But at this point, now both silos are running. I mean, the thing that it's not great, I mean, sucks is probably a strong word that we don't need to go to. I'm going to go ahead and now clean this up since I'm coming up this way. So, whoops, I hit the... Sometimes I hit that key by accident, but... Alright. So we'll do this. It'll obviously grab a little bit, but that's okay. But then we won't have to come back here and remember to do this. So I'll do that, and then when I get up front there, or up top there, you can see then where I moved over, I'll then stay over here as well, and then at least we'll be kind of lined up. Because obviously this will take a little bit longer. Obviously it's helpful here that we don't... Let's see, I think I can move faster if I pick the pickup up. Okay. So I just need to be ready to go. Alright, and then we lower this, and we should be good. Everything's down, everything's blue, everything's running. So hopefully the surprises are over. But yeah, not having a bigger forage wagon then is I guess, helpful, because it would be a lot more effort otherwise. Alright, we'll get out here. I didn't really mean to fold that. I'm going to kind of come at this from a farther side. Yeah, I'll be curious what the plans are for the FM who owns 38 there, because they haven't planted anything, and we're kind of getting toward the window, so where planting season ends. I can't imagine they're going to leave the field to go, but they might be in a situation where whatever they're planning on doing, maybe they can't harvest this year because they're going to be gone or something, and so they're like, well, I'm not going to place that or do that work is really kind of what... Oh, I'm too far over again, so let me... This is not going to be nice, but let's see. What I want is kind of this. I probably just have to... I'll have to clean that up later, obviously. Alright, and now we'll go down this side. Since I'm over here, I don't think I'm going to hit... I'm going to fill up before I get to the end, but I may. I mean, it is shorter, but it's not that much shorter of a run, so this may be enough to go ahead and get me to that. I mean, now I've tried to hit the reset a couple times on the forage wagon, so... But it is interesting that on Oberon it was 35,000, and here it's something else, so it's almost like they put different weights on the crop from the map or something. I assume that's the only way you do it, because I think the limit is based on weight and what the thing can carry. And obviously if I didn't have everything connected, the PTO and the hoses, it wouldn't function at all. So, you know, I don't think it's that. So yeah, you can see here, at least I'm maintaining the speed a little better. If you watch the episode where I planted this, I was having a hard time up this little incline with the planter. Now, this is all lag. This is not things that are slowing down. I mean, it looks like it did go down to 7, though. And yes, it looks like I'm probably going to need to twiddle a little bit when I get up near the mower, which is kind of where I was saying to push it far enough over, because I knew, like, it's not going to stick out a whole lot. Although I suppose I could just do this and it'll just push the mower, so maybe I'll just do that, because it doesn't look like it's... If it hits, it's not going to be nearly as much. But yep, we are at that point again. So yeah, it looks like basically 4,300 liters less per load that we'll be able to move. So yeah, that's an interesting thing, and something we get to discover by changing maps. But I did not know that was map dependent. I think this is one I'll definitely pose a question on, because this is something I don't recall ever seeing. Yeah, now the challenge is going to be is there some other change that I'm not aware of with regards to the quantity of material or grass that I can get off per acre? I mean, all my thoughts and all my calculations are based on the fact that I kind of understand I'm going to get X amount of grass off 20 acres, hence my target, because I think that will be a good solid size to push these 2 silos a bit, because I was only really putting 17 loads in, or 17 in there. Loads hit my tongue there, because that's exactly what I'm struggling with here, is I kind of knew how many loads went into each silo off the other field, but that was 35,000 liter loads, so I'm going to have to go off and play with some data to determine, you know, what this turns into, because basically, let's see, because I'm losing just to make it easy, I'm losing 5,000 per trip, which means every 6 loads would have been one less trailer load. if that makes sense the way I'm explaining it, because basically that would be 30,000 and my capacity is 30,000. So what I'm losing is that ability to move 35,000. So, you know, it's like if I was moving 18 loads in, which I was not, because 10 would be 350,000 and I wasn't even getting that much into the silo. Like, as it sat with the 17 acres, I didn't really run into an issue or a potential of an issue until the third cutting. So the capacity was there because you basically are able to do 565,000, and then you can do you can have that much in silage as well. So basically it gives you a capacity of like 1.12 million in total, and so it was like kind of by the third cutting I was getting that in a single silo. Well, let me just do this, because otherwise I'll not pick it up. But kind of starting to learn what the quirks are. I was worried I turned too early, but it looks like I'm okay. Because at this point, we've got 90,000, you know, like probably not, a little over 91,000. And what the difference there is if I could bring a full forage wagon over, I would have 105,000. So like I'm already 15,000 behind what I would be able to get. Alright, so for now, because again this is going to take a bit, it's obviously going to take a little bit longer now that I'm having to make some more trips. I mean, at the end of the day, it's, you know, maybe it's going to be 3-4 more trips, but I mean, I'll figure that out in between when I go off camera here. But I'm going to continue on because, once again, I don't mind the episodes being a little lengthy, but there's no point in making them marathons for sure. So I'm going to keep collecting up what I have, and I'll be back once I have got done what I've mowed to give you an update of where things sit based on that. I spent a little bit of time asking both the FMs that are on, and I've now posted a question out in the FSN Discord just to see if anyone knows. Because it seems, at least the consensus of the FMs talking here, yes, we've seen some things weird, like some people couldn't fill lime the same way they used to be able to, or whatever, and you know, someone was using, but they're two different pieces of equipment, and in one they could get 100% full, the other one they could only get 80. But that could still happen just through exactly what we're talking about, if the weight of the grass here is heavier than it was in France. So it's just something that I was not aware was set at the map level, that it could be modified. But we'll see what the answer comes back, or what the consensus is, because the question is, you know, is there some kind of a weird bug that operations needs to look at, that something is set wrong that is causing this, but we do not know, is basically where we're at this point. So I will head back to continue working on this, but just wanted to give you guys that update. And again, now I will be back once I am completed with picking everything up, and we'll see where we're at. I am back, so I've collected everything, and as you can see, basically we have 360,000, well, no, yeah, 360,000 off of the field, which is less than we had off of the bigger field, so I need to cut more. I have about, I don't know, 10 rows or so, so I'm thinking I need, now that I think about it though, because that was 10 rows of the windrower. I'm trying to figure out, because we're on 10 here. Let me drive over to the edge of the field, because I think then this isn't going to be 10. Maybe it will be. 2, 1, 0. Alright. So, because yeah, I think I set it there. So 360 is there. I don't want, like, I don't know, maybe 700,000 would be right. It just seems like double this would be a lot. So it's taken me, I don't know, 2.5 hours. But basically what I had before was I had like 520,000 or so is what I was getting off field 36 or whatever it was in the French farm. So to get a little higher, if I could get to say 600 or so, I think that would be the sweet spot that I'm looking at. So I need basically another 240. So I'm thinking, because one row for the most part has been more than the 30,000. Now they went, I had posted the question about the limit, and they had just come in now and turned off the trailer limit. So now I'll be able to use the full 35,000. But it was about 30,000. Like the trailer would fill before I would get a row here. I don't know if at 35,000 if that will be accurate, but what that would mean is basically like 8 rows would be 30. Really 7 rows probably would do it. Because let me peek. I mean, we are cutting back a bit, but so I think what I'll do is I'll do 8. And so in that case, now I'll turn on. Why do I not have something connected? Interesting. Everything is connected. So why? Well, there we go. I don't know. Maybe something was goofy. So I'm at 10. So we'll go to 18. So let me see here, because I'll basically, so that's 16, 17, 18, and that will probably be okay. And if I need to cut another 1 or 2 rows, that's fine. But yeah, so the trailer limit thing has obviously been solved, so now I'll be able to do the full 35,000, so that will save things. Now I had gone ahead and done some calculations just so I kind of understood what the reality was. For 1,000,000 liters, which is more than I would be doing anyway, I mean it was more than I was doing on the other farm, but just it was an easy calculation. 1,000,000 liters would have taken 4 more loads the way it was running than if I could get the full thing. So it would have been 32 trailers instead of 28. So it's not like it was some insane difference, but you know, certainly it's Whoop. Alright, so let me move this over, because obviously that's not right. I don't want to leave a little bit of grass here. That makes no sense. So we'll probably have a little more than 18. You know, maybe I'll run the 19 just to be safe, and because otherwise reconnecting for 1 or 2 rows doesn't make sense. Because we really had 11, because if we're at 10, don't forget, GPS starts at row 0. Or track 0, whatever the heck they're actually called. So what I'll do then is I'll go down 19, so I'll cut it up here at the top, because I have enough room to move around that I just need kind of the one headland, because it's just not worth the trying to collect things at the edge there. I've definitely run into some problems as I was doing that. So I'll run that over and then cut down the trailer up there, the forage wagon. It's got about 4,000 or 5,000 liters in it. That's what was left. And obviously I just left it there so then I could pick up and continue once I'm done mowing a little bit more here. But this is certainly simpler from a logistics standpoint, in that we can go ahead and not have to run all over the map. Sorry, lost my train of thought there of what I was going for. But yeah, we don't have to go all over the map to mow and deliver like we kind of did in France. So this certainly simplifies things. Alright, so we'll head over here, and once again I don't know that it's gonna let me do, well, it's gonna let me grab most of it, so we'll take it. So this is 17, 18, alright, now I'm hitting those, so that's gonna become kind of sloppy pickup time. That won't be good. Because yeah, some of the bushes you can drive through, some obviously you can't. But anyway, this will give us that portion, and then this is 19 here, and so we may be at the number. We'll see as we go down here if the center number of the field is kind of where we did end up or not. So, unless I was misestimating what this field size was, but I think it was like 46 or something. Like I said, I think we dropped down 2. But yeah, I'm pretty much right over the 37. I'm actually a little bit over it. I mean, I'm going to fully cover it at this point, the way it's set. So that'll be simple enough if that's what I do. And that's about, I was about halfway, so with the turnaround, even though I thought I turned around at 18, it looks like we're going to be right about there. Probably go ahead, let's see, I'll try to, so if I pick this up, then I can still get the back done. There we go, without creating too much difference there. And let me do that, and then we'll just go ahead and get what we need done here. So I should have plenty of room to turn around there. But hopefully this will get me what I need. But I think that, you know, around the 600,000 I'll stop, because that's gonna get me, I think, to a reasonable amount. It's like I said, you know, doubling the time of what I'm doing, because I'm already at like 3 or 4 hours, and that's really, honestly, really close to where I was doing the other fields. And some of it was obviously this. I do have obviously more distance to get to the silos here, where in some cases there wasn't as much transportation, and certainly it's taken a little longer because I probably had to do at least 2 more runs with the wagon being limited, so that'll change a bit. But like I said, I have the ability, you know, if I want to go ahead and, you know, cut 5 more rows and get another 100,000 liters at least. Like, I understand what the dynamics of the field are to some degree. So I'm going to finish this up, get things collected, and then we'll kind of pop back in once I feel I'm complete. If I suddenly decide, hey, I need to do a little more, I'll just fill you in. But I think at this point I'll be back one more time to wrap up, and we'll go from there, because then the silos just obviously need to ferment. So the other thing, before I do go, sorry, we'll figure out, we did have a discussion, because I know normally in FSN when you do productions you have to do a production permit and things like that, but because these accounts or these farms aren't really connected to the website yet and may not be, my question was, well, given that we had the sheep barns up there, or the productions up there, not the sheep barns as much as the spinnery and the tailoring, I'm like, well, we're not able to buy permits, so are we able to do that? And I had missed a line of production, so we can have 4 animal buildings and 5 productions on any farm. And so obviously he's maxed at the productions, but what that has led to, because in essence, in-game, those fermenting silos show up as productions, the FM who's got the barns up at the north end has put a question out, are the silos considered production, or are they considered silos as they appear in the game when you buy them? You're not buying them under the production menu. You know, so that's certainly a key point, because I think to some degree, like if I determined, hey, the sheep might have an angle and it might be worth doing something with them, and vice versa, if he's like, I need some silage for some reason, you know, or he just wants to say, hey, if I've got extra grass that my sheep aren't consuming, because again, that was the other thing, and when I've used sheep, they don't eat super fast. So I think that big sheep barn only holds like 11 or 12,000 liters of grass, which, you know, again, from this little bit here, I've gotten 360,000 liters. So, you know, I could certainly feed sheep probably for the entire 10 years we're here off of the grass I already mowed. And even though his fields are smaller up there, it's not that hard to get 11,000 liters of grass, for example. So, but he asked that question, and so if he wants to add fermenting silos, the key is, are they considered productions or not? So it'll be interesting to see what that answer is. That I haven't looked and seen yet, but I'll probably take a peek at that and see if that's been responded to, and I could just share that information when we get here, because there's certainly some looking at things that I'm going to need to do just to go forward. Because if you really think this through, I mean, you know, modeling farming over multiple generations, I mean, given that we're going to be on here for decades by the time this competition is over, you know, this is year 9 basically of the entire competition. You know, I'm listing them on the thumbnails as the year in the generation, but obviously you'll be able to, you know, add all those up and see where we end up in total when we're done. But if we're running for 40 to 70 years or wherever it is that we'll end up, even though we can't take a lot of equipment with us, which is what I still say precludes crops from being worthwhile, because you're talking about harvesters and things like that you'd be moving, and then still having to buy a lot of other equipment to cover the work every time we moved. But it's possible, if you can do something like sheep that eat grass, or a derivative of grass. Again, it's been a while since I've done them. I don't remember if you can just feed them grass or if they need something else as well. And growing, you know, while initially I was like, hey, grass is the way to go. As we have more funding, like if you can get on and then just buy sheep and they kind of pay for themselves quickly, it might make sense to do it. And so what we didn't have was that it was enough money in Generation 1 to do that, but now that there's several of us that have millions, from what we did mainly with grass, like suddenly that might change things. And so what I need to look at is there a dynamic there that works? Because, for example, chickens, you need a crop, so then you're sitting there harvesting crops to feed chickens. And then cattle, obviously, yes, it's grass, but you basically have to mix TMR to get the best benefit and so forth, and then you're doing all this work to create hay, and you also need straw to do TMR, which then puts you back in a crop. So I think the only animal that might make some sense is sheep. It's just, you know, the reality is, you know, the sheep pen's 97,000, the tailor shop is 100,000, the spinnery is 60,000. So again, per what we talked about with the expenses and so forth, it's not like, hey, I do that. I mean, you've got to get that return in 2 to 10 years, and that's the danger. Like, you could invest all that money and we could be gone here in 2 years, and if those things don't pay back that quickly, which I can't imagine they will, you know, you could suddenly end up losing money, and we don't know in each generation how long it's going to be. We just know that once again we're going to get a year warning. So that's the type of stuff likely, you know, after I'm done with this episode, so if I talk about it, it'll be next time. That is certainly worth looking at, just so that I have the data and I can make a fact-based decision instead of just a gut decision on it. Because, per what I started this episode with, kind of just a ruthless capitalist in this series. I'm just doing what makes the most money and keeps me ahead and makes me Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos of FSN. And, you know, I want to be the richest man in the world, or close to it, because that is what we're being asked to do here. So anything that doesn't do that is a waste of time. But anyway, let me snap away for now, and I'll come back in to wrap things up. So I'll see you in a bit. So here we go. I did not cut any more, and we basically got right about what I wanted. A little bit more, actually. I think we're at like 620,000 or so. Maybe even 630. So that should be plenty. But basically each silo has over 300,000 now. Which would kind of be, you know, on the small silos would be the full capacity of those, but on these it's 60% or so. So you can see we're at 307, and then we're at 318 because we dumped that extra load there. So I think we're good. Basically at this point it's nearly gotten a full trailer processed. It's very close to that. So not too bad, that's for sure. We've run over most of the crop and weeds at this point, and I'm sure we'll finish up most of that when we start emptying the silos. So, yeah, let me take a peek here. So yeah, we definitely have a little bit of a difference in height. It's interesting because I guess the road's rising a little bit, but because it's a relatively flat, I mean, this certainly looks flat here, so it just definitely had a lot more texture by the road than I had expected. But just taking a peek, so yeah, I mean, I guess the field area is 38, so it's not quite as big as I thought. It's telling me 40.12 acres. Which is what it is reporting. So that's fine, but given that, again, I want about 20-ish, I just don't want to push it too much, because it still took quite some time, and if I was kind of back up where I was at before, that'd be a lot. But it's good to have the flexibility, and, I mean, the reason I chose this field, the size was probably the last thing. First thing was the proximity to the sell point, And the added benefit is this, is that the expected yield potential is quite good. You know, everything around it, while not terrible, is worse. So, like, this was the best field in the bunch that I could have gotten really close here. So that was, those two things were really what were driving me toward this one, if I could do that. Now, I don't know if that potential harvest quantity, that 933, is the entire space, because it would seem like I should be able to get more than that off the field, given that, like I said, I was probably getting close to 800 or 900. So, I mean, only getting like another 133,000 for another 10 acres doesn't seem quite right, but I don't know that I checked the potential harvest quantity anywhere else either. So we've not gotten an answer on the fermenting silos being productions or not yet, so we're still waiting on that. But I think at this point I've got done what I wanted to do. There's a lot of baling contracts on this map, so it looks like a lot of grass fields. So you can see, I mean, these are all, you know, 5, like I think these are literally all grass. You know, and then there's plowing, weeding. I suppose if someone really wants to wanted to try, because you could go ahead maybe and do this one, but you know, you can see, I mean, it's 24 acres, and by the time you're done renting everything, you get $1,000 for doing that job. It's just crazy for the amount of effort. You know, and on baling, I think you could do well. You know, you could go crazy for this one for 100,000, only spend 8,000 on equipment. You know, so you're going to get 80,000 off of it, but you know, you've got to bale the grass, wrap it. You know, so you're going to have to mow it, ted it, or not ted it, mow it, windrow it, bale it, wrap it, and then deliver it. So that's the challenge with the baling. I mean, you're getting paid a good amount, but can't imagine. I mean, I think it would take a while. We'll see. I may, just for fun, try something. I might try something smaller, certainly, to start, and see how that goes. But it's nice to see there's a lot more options for that here. You know, I'll keep an eye out on the contracts and see what else is going on for sure. All right, so of the FMs on here, so yes, it looks like Locked has turned one of his fields into grass. This FM is doing grass. We've got some grass fields here, grass fields there. And these colors are so close together in some cases, it's hard to tell what's separated, but I think these go with this. I suppose this is the best way to see it, but even so, you know, and then again we have sugar beets, so it looks like we're all doing grass, except Locked is increasing his capacity there, or trying to do something with the sheep and the productions that go along with that. So that's the only variation, and then we've got kind of one sugar beet farmer, and then remains to be determined what this farmer is going to do. So I'm going to head on out. You know, maybe I'll get excited, I'll come back and do a contract later. Maybe I'll mow more grass. More than likely I probably won't do any of that. You know, this is really what I was planning on doing, but of course when everyone's in the server and they're just kind of going crazy and busy, it just makes you feel like you should be doing more, but I don't know. In the end, you know, I don't, as I've said, I don't want this to take over my life and be the only thing I'm doing, and I do need some attention on my main farm as well. So I'm definitely going to leave now. And with that, we'll wrap it up. Certainly if you've liked this episode, like this video, I'd appreciate if you haven't hit the like button already. That'd be great. Helps spread the message, get the video out in front of more people, the more likes it gets. And if you'd be so kind as to subscribe if you had not, that would also be greatly appreciated. And I'll see you next time.